Hi, today we're going to talk about preparation for airway disease and for throat surgeries. We're going to talk about nasal washes. We're going to talk about the research that Dr. Holland did at the Gluck Center, and there'll be a lot of great information, so stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rob Holland. I'm a respiratory disease person and also a respiratory airway person. So I look after inflammatory airway disease, recurrent airway disease, EIPH, and any type of bleeding issues that the horse has in throat dynamics. I do a lot of work with nebulizing, a lot of work with cleaning scopes, and PhD in infectious diseases, virology, and veterinary sciences from the Gluck Equine Research Center. And I have my veterinary degree from Mississippi State College of Veterinary Medicine. Thank you, and I enjoy working with KESMARC.
Hello, everybody, and I'm sitting here today with one of the crucial members of the KESMARC team, Dr. Robert Holland, and he's going to talk we're going to talk today about the work that we have done over the last 17 years and tell you a little about who he is and why he knows what he knows.
Thank you, Kirsten. I love KESMARC. They do a fantastic job on airways and working with the horses, and each horse is an individual and we figure it out, and KESMARC does a fantastic job with that. So thank you for inviting me today.
You know, when it comes to you scoping a throat and monitoring these pre and post-surgical horses, and you know, the last thing you ever want to do is be a surgeon.
Yeah.
The last thing that you ever want to do is lameness, because you're just vertically impaired for that one. But at the end of the day, there's a reason that you have the information in your head on what a good throat and what a functioning throat is supposed to look like. I think that needs to be explained here, because then it'll make sense to folks as to why it is that you know what you're looking at.
And that's a good point. So back in the 90s when I was working on my PhD, Monday through Thursday I worked at the Gluck Equine Research Center, learning about infectious diseases, learning about respiratory problems in horses.
And you already had your DVM.
And I already had my
Yes.
DVM. So I went and did my PhD afterwards, because I'm a why veterinarian.
Yes.
Why does this happen? Why does this not happen? And
Oh,
it
yes,
used to
you
drive
are.
my faculty members nuts. Just it happens. Stop asking questions. But
Yes.
I was never going to stop asking questions. On Friday through Sunday, I worked at the Racing Commission, and then when the person was putting sponges in the noses of horses, the Racing Commission asked from the governor's office if they could bring me back out to go full-time back to the Racing Commission, because they had a fundamental problem. It was affecting bedding. People were having doubts about our signal. It could affect our simulcasting signal. So the governor's office actually called over to the Gluck Center and said, we need Dr. Holland to slow down on his PhD for a bit and come back out to the racetrack and scope all the horses before they ran. I did that for about 2 years. And I scoped over 10,000 horses a year. It's actually closer to probably 30,000, but I tell people 10,000 so they don't freak out. So I had to scope every horse before they ran, all 120 of them, up both nostrils to make sure there wasn't a problem. But I also saw the back of their throat, because they wanted me to go up there and make sure somebody else hadn't put a sponge somewhere else. That was very helpful for me, because that afternoon all those horses ran on the racetrack. So I knew what was doing well, what wasn't doing well, and I kind of had a mental picture of all that, and I knew where everything was going. So that's why little things like the way the epiglottis sits, and if it pushes forward, we can see ahead of schedule. If an arytenoid is tilting a little bit and doesn't fan back, that's also problematic. And I had seen little cues that then later got proven out by surgeons, because they would say in a week or two later, horse did poorly. Everybody would say, well, was the sponge in the nose? No, it was probably something else. Then come to find out, the trainer would say, no, I sent that horse to throat surgery. And their veterinarians did that, but they were suspecting it, and I also saw it, because I was a part of the regulatory body. It also helped me because all the horses got swabbed and had nasal washes at times when there was a problem on the track. For all those years, I was doing all that in the afternoon. After I cleaned all the horses up, I would walk up and say, hey, I'm a racing official. I'm not going to have any problem with your farm, but can we swab your farm, or can we do a nasal wash to kind of figure out what this is?
Yep.
And then I take it back to the Gluck Center at the end of the weekend, and we work it all up. So we kind of had true cause and effect, and I did that for 4 years. And that cause and effect has really led me for all the 17 years, and that's where we learned about guttural pouches. Whenever I saw a little draining from a guttural pouch, those horses never won a race, not once. I mean, in all those years, I never saw them win a race when I was scoping them.